Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Denisha Gardner, and today we're going to be talking about reality theory. William Glasser is the creator of reality theory. He was born in 1925 to 2013. Initially a chemical engineer, he turned to psychology and then psychiatry, attending medical school with the intention of becoming a psychiatrist. During his psychiatrist training, he worked at a youth prison for girls where he practiced Freud's training. And very early, he rejected the model, which we'll talk about later. And he was influenced by G.L. Harrington, who was his mentor and also another psychiatrist. So at the end of his residency, he put together ideas that later became reality theory. So in 1965, he published his book, Reality Theory, that was very groundbreaking to his career. And next is Robert E. Woebling. He was born in 1936, born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, the youngest of 6 children. He has a doctorate in counseling from University of Cincinnati, and he's a licensed counselor and psychologist. So why is he in this PowerPoint? Well, he attended many intensive training conducted by Glasser in LA, and in 1988 he was appointed by Glasser himself as the director of training for William Glasser's Institute. So then he became an international known teacher, author, and practitioner for reality therapy. He's traveled all over the world and has introduced reality therapy in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. And he also extended reality therapy with his idea of the WDEP system, which we'll get into a little bit later. What is reality therapy? So, reality therapy is a client centered behavior therapy. It focuses on the client's behavior and the inability to have successful relationships. It's based on choice therapy, which explains why and how we function. Glasser believed that we all had 5 basic needs. The 5 basic needs are genetically encoded in us. And those 5 needs are power, which is a sense of winning, achieving, or a sense of self-worth, love and belonging, to family, to a community, or to other loved ones, freedom to be independent, maintain personal space, fun, to achieve satisfaction, enjoyment, and a sense of pleasure, and the last one, survival, basic needs of shelter, survival, food, and sexual fulfillment. So basically, we're on this earth to fulfill those needs. If they're not met, it affects our behavior and our relationships with others. So reality therapy helps individuals take more effective control of their lives. Glasser also thought of reality therapy as the cycle of counseling, which is 2 things: creating the counseling environment and implementing specific procedures that leads to change in behavior. And it's essential to form a satisfying relationship between the counselor and client in reality therapy. So why was it created? Well, as I mentioned before, Glasser rejected Freud's psychoanalytic model, and he believed that the training was limited in the counseling of the young girls in the prison because he felt that it was only talking to their disturbed side, and he feels like it would be best to talk to the same part of the clients because we all have a choice to behave the way we do. In 1962, when Glasser began to do public lectures, reality therapy didn't exist. It was called reality psychiatry. But he then noticed that there were only few psychiatrists in the audience. It was mostly social workers, counselors, and correctional workers. So then he then changed the name to reality therapy. So that then became the title of the book and then the name of the theory. So, reality therapy came about in the 1960s, 1965 to be exact, when Glasser published his book. This was about 10 years into the Vietnam War. And at this time, Glasser believed that people were being diagnosed too easily and the use of medication for illnesses was just being thrown out there and it was just way too common. And he wanted to hold people responsible for their behaviors because he believed that we are all in control of all our actions. And if people can understand that, behaviors would be able to change. So with this, he wanted to continue to focus on the sane part of clients. Because many times he didn't believe that people were truly disturbed. What causes hurt and suffering? In reality theory, the inability to connect will take a toll on the counseling because it's pretty much focused on the client's needs and the client desires. So the client needs to be able to connect with their counselor. So having that safe and trustworthy environment is crucial for the process. If the client is not taking responsibility for their behaviors and understanding that they're in control of their behaviors and that's why it's happening, then they'll struggle and suffer through this process. Learn helplessness. There pretty much really is not a reason to fail in reality therapy because the client is the one that's setting the goals and deciding the change. And then for unmet needs. As Glasser mentioned, we all have the 5 basic needs. If those aren't being met, the client will continue to suffer as they won't be able to change their behavior. Some key concepts. So, quality world. We store information inside our minds and build a file of wants, which is the core of our lives. It's our personal Shangri-La, the world we would like to live in if we could. Picture albums are specific wants as well as precise ways to satisfy these wants. So we're attempting to behave in a way that gives us the most effective control of our lives. A client can come in with a blurry picture or image, and it's a counselor's job to clear that up for them, to make that image clear. Total behaviors teaches that all behaviors is made up of 4 inseparable but distinct components. Acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology that necessarily accompanies all of the acting, thoughts, and feelings that we hold. So the primary emphasis is on what the client is doing and how they're doing the component influence the other aspects of their total behavior. Looking at Glasser's perspective, if you're, let's say you're speaking about being depressed or having a headache or being angry, he uses that as a lack of personal responsibility and it's inaccurate. So he would want you to use it as a verb, depressing, headaching, angering. So it's more accurate to think of people depressing or angering themselves rather than having the actual behavior. In addition to the total behavior, Wobbling added a personal communication, which saying that behavior is a language and that we send a message by what we're doing. So the purpose of behavior is to influence the world to get what we want. And then lastly, self-evaluation, which is a cornerstone of reality therapy. In order to achieve reality therapy, the client must go through a thorough evaluation of themselves. So it involves a client to examine their behavioral direction, specific actions, their wants, perceptions, new direction, and plans. So they should be able to ask themselves, does their present behavior have a reasonable change? And are they getting what they want now, or will it take them in the direction where they need to go? And then without an honest self assessment, it's unlikely that the client will change. So, what promotes change in reality therapy? Well, as we talked about in all the other theories, environment is crucial. That trustworthy, satisfying relationship between the client and the therapist is crucial. So, since it's pretty much client based and clients that come in for reality therapy, they struggle with having a satisfying connection with others. So, the need to build one in therapy is crucial so they can be able to form them outside of it. When the client begins to realize that they can control their own behavior, is when they'll be able to change because they're able to understand why they're not able to build those relationships. So, once the client can understand that the focus is on the now and the present, and they're avoiding all their past events, they'll be able to understand that they cannot control how they feel, but they can control how they think and how they behave. So, the goals of reality therapy, of course, behavior change, but helping clients get connected and reconnected with people they have chosen to put in their quality world, the ones that they want to spend the most of their time with. Clients are able to make effective and responsible choices related to their wants and needs. They're able to understand that they are in control of how they think and how they behave. They'll be able to fulfill all their needs, their 5 basic needs, and they'll be able to make better decision making, improve significant relationships, enhance their living, and more satisfaction of all psychological needs. And the heart of reality therapy is learning how to make better and more effective choices and gaining more effective control. So when the client is able to focus on what they're able and willing to do in the present, they can have changed behavior. So here's a picture of the habits that Glasser focused on. So the 7 deadly habits, you should want to switch those to become 7 curing habits. So the 7 deadly habits: criticizing, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, punishing, bribing or rewarding to control. And you want to change that to become the 7 caring habits. So supporting, encouraging, listening, accepting, trusting, respecting, and negotiating differences. So, the role of a therapist. The biggest thing of reality therapy is self evaluation. So, teaching the client how to engage in self evaluation, but honest self evaluation. So, a question that might come up would be, what do you want in your life that you're not getting? How would you like to change your life? So, a therapist will also provide hope and encouragement that if these changes and goals will get met, that the client can change their life. Glasser included that counselors should have a few personal qualities. So, warmth, sincerity, congruence, understanding, acceptance, concerns, respect for the client, openness, and willingness to be challenged by others. As I mentioned before, the relationship between the counselor and the client is crucial. Clients that come in for reality therapy, they struggle with making a satisfying relationship. So being able to form one with the counselor is crucial to start the process. So when they're able to start one with a counselor, they'll be able to start one outside of counseling, be able to form that with other people. The relationship between the therapist and the client, so it should be understanding and a supporting relationship. So the therapist should understand the needs and the wants of their client and support them in that because the client is the one that's coming up with the change in all their goals. The client should see the therapist as knowledgeable and skilled, and the therapist must hold certain personal qualities, as I mentioned in the last slide, and creating involvement with the client. The therapist should be holding the client accountable as they set their goals, making sure they're obtainable, but also not too easy. The WDEP system, which is the 4 key procedures of reality theory. It's designed to promote change. So it's very important as a counselor to know what questions to ask, how to ask them, and when to ask them. So in the WDEP system, the W stands for wants, needs, and perceptions. So W stands for wants, needs, and perceptions. So W stands for asking clients what they want from therapy, from their families, from themselves, and then generally from the world around them. So D, direction and doing. The focus is literally on the question, what are you doing? So the counselor must note that the client can't dwell on the past. They have to learn to deal with it in the present by getting what they want. So the biggest question is legit going to be, what are you doing and where is this behavior taking you? So in this stage, the counselor may actually bring a mirror and ask the client, what do you see for yourself now and in the future? And at this point, it will encourage the client to take action by changing what they're doing and thinking. And it's easier to change what we're doing and thinking than to change our feelings. And then E is for self-evaluation, which we talked about earlier, but it's a cornerstone of reality therapy. And basically, without honest self-assessment, the client is unlikely to change. And then planning. So planning and action. So basically the process of creating and carrying out plans and enables a client to begin to gain effective control of their lives. So if, for instance, the plan may not work, then the client and the counselor come up with a new plan that will. And then the focus on this is to have the client focus on their consequences of their actions and how it may affect others in their life. And the key question in this one might just be, the key question in this will be, what is your plan? And then once the client can determine a plan, then they'll be able to change. And that means that they actually want to change. And Wellblum also developed an acronym, SAMIC, SAMIC, which basically stands for simple, attainable, measurable, immediate, involved control by the planner committed to and consistently getting it done. So basically it just helps the client form plans. So something that's simple and attainable and it's immediate. All right, so contributions and limitations. So for contributions, reality therapy is short-term focus, about 10 sessions or less, and it's client-based, so the client is setting their goals. The changes are desired by them. And it's a pretty simple approach since it's based on the client's desires and needs. For limitations, it's only limited to environmental and social problems. Clients can be hesitant to directly verbally express what they need. Many times clients come in not knowing what they want out of therapy. So being able to just come out directly saying what they want and need might be a struggle. It's easy for counselors to impose their values on the client. And then lastly, the biggest one that I think is that reality therapy focuses on current problems with the client. So they need to ignore their past events. And if you think about it, with many clients with trauma, all they can think about is the past. The past is why they act the way they do. All right, so wrapping up here, some quotes All right, guys, so as we wrap it up here, before I get to the reflection, just wanted to conclude on like the heart of reality therapy is learning how to make better and more effective choices and gain more effective control. So basically, just focusing on what we're able and what we're willing to do in the present can change our behavior. Like, we cannot control how we feel, but we can control how we think and behave. All right. So to the reflection, just some things for you guys to think about for next week's class. Just think about, what do you want? Like, what do you guys really want? And are you guys doing what it is to get what you want? And then think about your basic needs and the people who are in your quality world. Those 5 basic needs that are genetically encoded in us. And then lastly, if you were the person that you wish you were, what kind of person would you be? Not sure if I got a little too deep on you guys, but that's all. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next week.